Right, Shalom. First, I'd like to give all praises unto Yahweh, Ba'asham Yahweh Shai, and double honors unto the apostles and elders at Great Millstone, and honors to you brothers out there in the highways and the byways teaching this word in all sincerity and truth. Right, and this video is just going to basically go into the proper order and place of these heathens, man. Okay, because you got this false religion out there known as Christianity. And basically in that false religion, they basically try and group all peoples of the earth together as one and try to declare that salvation is for all. But if you actually study the scriptures and actually deal with what salvation is, the only conclusion you can come to is salvation is only for the nation of Israel. Okay? Because salvation is the kingdom of heaven, rulership. It's forgiveness of sins and rulership. That rulership only pertains onto the nation of Israel. They're the only people that have the right to rulership. They're the only people that have been promised rulership. Okay? Which, if you read the scriptures, you'll understand that. Like a lot of guys will say, oh, Israel was made to teach the nations. No, Israel was made to rule the nations, man. And that's what you're going to find out. So we're going to start, build it up from the beginning. All right. This is Genesis, the 17th chapter. And we're going to start from the 3rd verse. Now, this is going back to our forefather, Abraham. It says, and Abraham fell on his face, and God talked with him, saying, as for me, behold, my covenant is with thee, and thou shalt be a father of many nations. Neither shall thy name any more be called Abram, but thy name shall be Abraham, for a father of many nations have I made thee. And I will make thee exceeding fruitful, and I will make nations of thee, and kings shall come out of thee. Now, who are the kings that came out of Abraham? Israel. Because Israel is a nation of kings. Israel is the royal people of the planet Earth, man. Hence why their name, or the name of our people, is Israel, which means Yasha Allah. He is a prince of power. He's a prince of God. We've been surnamed, and that's in the scriptures, we've been surnamed by the name of Yahweh Ba'asham Yahweh Shai, man. We bear the name of the King of the heavens, man. All right, which no other nation has that, because they were created to be ruled over. All right. It says, and I will establish my covenant between me and thee and thy seed. Now we know that weren't as to seeds of many, but as to one. After thee in their generations for an everlasting covenant, to be a God unto thee and to thy seed after thee. All right, so we see here that the Lord made a covenant with Abraham and his seed. Now we know that seed, when you read through the histories, talking about Isaac. And then from Isaac had 2 sons, but the chosen seed was Jacob, which we going to get that in the scriptures. All right. Salakia. Right, so this is the book of 2nd Esdras, the 3rd chapter, verse 11. It says, nevertheless, one of them thou leftest, namely Noah, with his household, of whom came all righteous men. And it happened that when they that dwelt upon the earth began to multiply, and had gotten them many children, and were a great people, they began again to be more ungodly than the first. Now when they lived so wickedly before thee, thou didst choose thee a man from among them, whose name was Abraham. Him thou lovest. Okay, meaning the Lord didn't love everyone else, man. And unto him only thou shewest thy will, and madest an everlasting covenant with him, promising him that thou wouldest never forsake his seed. Okay. And unto him thou gavest Isaac. So, like I said, that covenant was passed on to Isaac, our forefather. And Isaac also thou gavest Jacob and Esau. As for Jacob, thou didst choose him to thee, and put by Esau. And so Jacob became a great multitude. Okay? So the blessing, the covenant rested upon Jacob, and then onto the 12 tribes of Israel. And we're going to back that up furthermore again. See, this is history that you have to understand, which these Christians ignore. They ignore the history of what really went on in the scriptures. What's going on here? Let's get the book of Sirach. Okay. Right. Now, this is on the book of Sirach 44. Alright, and 19. It says, Abraham was a great father of many people. In glory there was none like unto him, who kept the law of the Most High, and was in covenant with him. He established the covenant in his flesh, and when he was proved, he was found faithful. Therefore, he assured him by an oath that he would bless the nations in his seed, and that he would multiply him as the dust of the earth, and exalt his seed as the stars. So, you see, so whose seed was going to be exalted? The seed of Abraham, which is Jacob, man. Okay, but you're going to show you that. And cause them to inherit from sea to sea, and from the river unto the utmost part of the land. With Isaac did he establish likewise. So it went from Abraham to Isaac, as we read. All right. For Abraham, his father's sake, the blessing of all men. And the all men is talking about here is talking about the nation of Israel, man. And if you don't get that, then you ain't gonna get nothing, man. Okay, because you have to remember that this is an Israelite speaking. The all men, he was referring to his own people. Okay, the blessing of all men and the covenant, and made it rest upon the head of Jacob. Okay, so the blessing rested upon the head of Jacob. He acknowledged him in his blessing and gave him an heritage, and divided his portions among the 12 tribes did he part them. So what was that heritage and that blessing that Jacob received? Well, let's go back to Genesis 27th chapter. Let's see if the blessing was to be equal with all the nations, and save all the nations and all of this BS that these Christians try to bring. Let's go back to the blessing of our forefather Jacob. All right. Which that blessing is forever. It's an everlasting covenant. All right. Genesis the 27th chapter. Right. And we're going to read from the verse 27. Like I said, you can go and read the whole chapter if you want to get greater understanding. We're going to get to the point. Genesis 27 and 27. And he came near that he was Jacob, pretending to be Esau, and kissed him, and he smelled the smell of his raiment, and blessed him, and said, See, the smell of my son is as the smell of a field, which the Lord hath blessed. Therefore God give thee of the dew of heaven, and the fatness of the earth. Meaning that's all the good things of the earth, which is due to a royal people. And plenty of corn and wine, which means land. Let people serve thee. Let me read that again for you Christians out there that really don't get what's going on. We're going to rewind. This is the blessing of Jacob. This is what came down from Abraham to Isaac. The covenant and the blessing rested upon Jacob. This is what the Lord said. Let people serve thee. What people? What people is he talking about? All people. Everyone that's outside of Jacob, their place is to serve Jacob. All right? And nations bow down to thee. All right? Now remember the scripture said that blessing went on to the 12 tribes of Israel. Be Lord over thy brethren, and let thy mother's sons bow down to thee. Who's the mother's sons? Esau, the so-called white man. Okay? Cursed be everyone that curseth thee. Hey, the scripture said, curse not the king. Cursed be everyone. So if the nations curse Israel, then that's a curse upon themselves, man. and blessed be he that blesseth thee. Now you're gonna have to show me in the Bible where any other nation of people receive such a blessing in a covenant. No, not one. Alright? Now let's read about Esau, the so-called white man. It says, and it come to pass, as soon as Isaac had made the end of blessing Jacob, and Jacob was yet scarce gone out from the presence of Isaac, his father, that Esau his brother came in from his hunting. And he also had made savory meat, and brought it unto his father, and said unto his father, let my father arise, and eat of his son's venison, that thy soul may bless me. And Isaac his father said unto him, who art thou? And he said, I am thy son, thy firstborn Esau. And Isaac trembled very exceedingly, because Isaac know that the thing that had been done was a very wicked. See, that blessing that Jacob received was the kingdom of heaven, man. Was rulership over the whole entire universe, man, for that particular race of people, for the descendants of Jacob. Because go back to a video I made previously, the Bible is fundamentally a racial book. The blessing that when them blessings come down from the Lord like that, man, the Lord's actually the ramifications after is heavy. Why you think Cain was rough, man, was so bitter about his curse? Because that curse wasn't just upon him, it was upon him and his seed, man. Forever. The same thing, the same gravity applies to Jacob, man. That blessing was a serious blessing, man. That was the right of rulership over the planet Earth, for one race of people to rule over all the other races, man. The ring to rule all rings, man. That's what it's all about, man. Alright? But you see, a lot of you jakes, you caught up in this Christianity, man, so you have no idea that this is a Game of Thrones, man. And for thousands of years, you've had usurpers on the throne, man. People that don't belong on the throne. And you niggas want to share your throne with a damn slave, man. Which is out of order, man. That's not the way the Lord set it up to be. Alright? Now, and Isaac trembled very exceedingly and said, who? Where is he that hath taken venison and brought it me? And I have eaten all before thou camest, and have blessed him. And yea, he shall be blessed. That it was done, signed, sealed, and delivered. And when Esau heard the words of his father, he cried with a great and exceeding bitter cry, and said unto his father, bless me, even me also, O my father. And he said, thy brother came with subtlety, and have taken away thy blessing. And he said, is not he rightly named Jacob? Because the name Yaquab means supplanter. For he hath supplied me these 2 times. He took away my birthright, and behold, now he hath taken away my blessing. And he said, hast thou not reserved a blessing for me? And Isaac answered and said unto Esau, behold, I have made him thy Lord. Now, when he said he made Esau his Lord, you got to understand how the ramifications of that. That means Jacob is now what they call in a Game of Thrones, highborn, man. And all his sons are going to be highborn. And Esau's sons are going to be lowborn. They're forever, like, they're always going to be that spiritual right for Jacob's sons to rule over Esau's sons and the sons of all the other nations, man. And that hasn't changed. Alright? It says, behold, I have made him thy Lord, and all his brethren have I given to him for servants, man. Meaning the other people of the earth. Right? And with corn and wine have I sustained him, and what shall I do now unto thee, my son? Alright, so get that understanding into your head that the nation of Israel, Jacob, the blessing, the right of Jacob is to rule over all nations, man. To possess the kingdom, to possess the throne over all thrones. That's the right. That's a birthright. That's a God-given right. The Lord chose Jacob for that. That's part of being the chosen people. Rulership. To be representatives of the heavenly king on earth. Okay? So now we get that understanding. Let's move on to what happened then. Because, yeah, that blessing of rulership was given unto the nation of Israel. Alright? But the Lord made a covenant with the children of Israel to receive the fruits of that blessing, man. and it was through the law. When you go into Exodus, I believe it's the 19th chapter, where Moses sprinkled the blood upon the children of Israel, there was a covenant made there. There was a covenant made there. And to put it in a nutshell, the covenant was, look, you gonna fulfill your role on earth of being kings and of being above all these other nations. Okay? However, in order to receive that, you got to keep these laws, statutes, commandments that I'm going to give you. And if you don't keep those laws, I'm going to basically remove that rulership from you. Okay? Now, bear in mind, this is the promise going back to Abraham was the everlasting covenant, man. But the law put basically a small print in there, man, which was the law. Okay? And we're going to break that down in the scriptures, man. Okay? So I believe it's Exodus 9. You get guys talking about you got guys talking about the Old Testament and the New Testament, and then they say, oh, that's the Old Testament. If you read it out, Jeremiah is not the Old Testament, man. That's just a terminology that was placed upon a certain group of books in the modern times to make you kind of be able to navigate through the Bible. The Old Testament is found in the book of Exodus, the 19th chapter. That's the Old Testament. Okay, if you want to be technical. The Old Testament was actually a covenant that was made, okay, with the nation of Israel. So we'll read a bit of it. Obviously, you can go and read the whole Exodus, the 19th chapter for yourself. Exodus 19 and 3. I'm going to read as quick as possible. And Moses went up unto God, and the Lord called unto him out of the mountain, saying, Thus shalt thou say to the house of Jacob, and tell the children of Israel, Ye have seen what I did unto the Egyptians, and how I bare you on eagle's wings, and brought you unto myself. Now therefore, if ye will obey my voice indeed, and keep my covenant, then ye shall be a peculiar treasure unto me above all people, for all the earth is mine. Meaning what? You're going to be rulers over these people. You're going to be special. You're going to be placed in your position, which was already ordained for them from before not all these people were even born. Because this was a part of their birthright. But the Lord's saying, look, you want your birthright? Then this is how you got to be. And ye shall be unto me a kingdom of priests and a holy nation. The word holy means separated. They're going to be above and separate. Royalty. Okay? A king don't live among the commoners, man. A king lives in a palace on a hill. Right? On a mount, man. On high. Looking down on the people, man. A lot of castles and palaces are built on high places, man. Looking down upon the people, man. Okay? The king don't get up in the morning and next door you got Joe fucking, Joe Blogs coming out of a room. No, king is above, or the nation Israel. We're above all these nations, man. Alright? It says, and Moses came and called for the elders of the people, and laid before their faces all these words which the Lord commanded. I want to jump down to the point. You can read the whole thing, but I'm going to jump down to the point where the covenant was made. Because he reads the law and everything, and then you skip through a few chapters over, you're going to see. Just give me a second. Basically, the covenant was made when Moses sprinkled the blood. Alright, so he goes, that's where it begins, 19th chapter. You read on through the law, and he goes through the law and everything. Then you get to the 24th chapter, which is when it was sealed in blood. Right? He said, and Moses took half of the blood and put it in basins, and half of the blood he sprinkled on the altar. And he took the book of the covenant and read in the audience of the people, and they said, all that the Lord have said we do, and be obedient. And Moses took the blood and sprinkled it on the people and said, behold, the blood of the covenant which the Lord have made with you concerning all these words. Okay. Then went up Moses and Aaron, Nadab and Abihu, and 70 of the elders of Israel, you know, and they saw the God of Israel, and there was under his feet as it were a paved work of sapphire stone, and it's as it were the body of heaven in his clearness. Okay. And upon the nobles of the children of Israel he laid not his hand. Also they saw God and did eat and drink. All right. Now, so that was, you know, going into the sprinkling of the blood and making the covenant. Okay. With Israel. Okay. And then so that when you go to the book of Deuteronomy now, it goes into more detail about that covenant, man. So if we get Deuteronomy the 28th chapter, man, which if you watching the Hebrew Israelites, we bring that out a lot, because that's you know, very important to understand the old covenant. Now Deuteronomy 28:1, it says, and it shall come to pass, if thou shalt hearken diligently unto the voice of the Lord thy God, to observe and to do all these commandments which I command thee this day, that the Lord thy God will set thee on high above all nations of the earth. That goes back to the blessing of Jacob, man. Being over these nations, man. Having nations bow down to us, man. But there was a catch. We had to keep the law. And all these blessings shall come on thee and overtake thee, if thou shalt hearken unto the voice of the Lord thy God. Alright, and you can go and read through those blessings for yourself. Now if we jump down, there was another side to the deal. Verse 15. But it shall come to pass, if thou wilt not hearken unto the voice of the Lord thy God, to observe to do all these commandments and his statutes which I commanded thee this day, that all these curses shall come upon thee and overtake thee. And you can go and you can read through all those curses for yourself. But I will pick out one to show you. One of those curses is that these other nations would basically lord over us, which is not the natural state of an Israelite, man. That's why it's a curse. Okay, it says Deuteronomy 28, and we're gonna start from verse 45. Moreover, all these curses shall come upon thee, and shall pursue thee and overtake thee, till thou be destroyed, because thou hearkened not unto the voice of the Lord thy God, to keep his commandments and his statutes which he commanded this day, or commanded thee, sorry. And they shall be upon thee for a sign and for a wonder, and upon thy seed forever. There goes that racial thing again. I told you the Bible is fundamentally a racial book. It's racist, okay? Because thou servest not the Lord thy God with joyfulness and with gladness of heart, for the abundance of all things. Therefore shalt thou serve thine enemies. We're going to be serving the other nations. Instead of us, Lord, being kings and rulers over them, the Lord's going to take that away. And we're going to serve them, which the Lord shall send against thee in hunger and in thirst and in nakedness and in want of all things. And he shall put a yoke of iron upon thy neck until he have destroyed thee. Alright? And that state, Israel's been suffering for the longest while. This is what you got to understand, man. That state of being cursed and being below these other nations and being destroyed is a state that Israel has been under. And that's why we needed a savior. Because we could only attain our birthright through righteousness. That's the catch. But our righteousness wasn't good enough, man. Alright, that's why we're going to get the book of Galatians, man. So salvation has nothing to do with these other nations, man. These other nations are supposed to be in slavery. They're supposed to be under. There was no covenant with them nothing to do with whether they sin or not. Whether they sin or whether they don't sin, they still supposed to be under the nation of Israel. Point blank, period. That's their position. That's their natural state. All right. Israel's natural state is to be above, according to the blessing of Jacob. For us to be below is unnatural. That's why what Solomon said, he have seen servants on horses and princes walking as servants on the earth. Who are the princes he was talking about? The Israelites. And that's the state we're in today. We're walking as servants on earth, and we got we're the princes walking as servants on earth, and we got our slaves lording over us. Why? Because it's a punishment by the Heavenly Father. Because we attained not to the righteousness that the Lord was holding us to. That's why we needed a Savior. That's why we needed Yahweh Shai, man. Because Yahweh Shai is going to make us righteous, man, with his righteousness. And make us clean. That we may obtain that which was promised to us, or promised to our Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, which is the kingdom of heaven, man. The kingdom of heaven ain't nothing new. It ain't sight. That's why John the Baptist says, what? The kingdom of heaven is at hand. It wasn't something that just popped up. You know what? There's going to be a kingdom of heaven. The kingdom of heaven was Israel ruling over the earth in righteousness. That was always meant to be the deal going all the way back to Moses, man. What's wrong with you guys, man? It was never about the other. Where did it say there? Where was the room for the other nations there? Their place was below. All right? Let's get Galatians. So now we're going to get some understanding here, going into why Yahweh Shai is important and what the salvation is about. The salvation is about Israel fulfilling the promise that was given unto them, which was the kingdom of heaven was promised unto the nation of Israel. The reason why Israel couldn't attain the kingdom of heaven was because of the curse of the law. So how can Israel attain the kingdom of heaven? Where the Lord sent his son to die, to sacrifice himself for the sins of Israel, so that the sins could be wiped away, and that Israel could be changed to keep the law, so that they could attain the kingdom of heaven, and therefore the Lord could fulfill his promise which he made. And we're going to read it right here in the book of Galatians, in the so-called New Testament. All right? Now, this is Galatians 3:16. Now to Abraham and his seed were the promises made. Now we already been over that. See, and this is in the New Testament, and that is a racial statement, man. That is see, guys in the church just read that. Oh, Abraham and his seed. Oh, that is racist. He's excluded other people based upon race. The promises were made to Abraham and his seed, his descendants, man, through a specific lineage, which we already outlined: Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. So that means that you other nations cannot be a part of it, man, because no promises were made to you. He saith not unto seeds as of many, but as of one, okay, which was Isaac, and then to Jacob, and to thy seed, which is Christ, which is Yahweh Shai, because Yahweh Shai is really, the blessing fell upon him, and the other Israelites were joint heirs with him. When you really break it down, because Yahweh Shai is the only one that achieved that righteousness, man. And he's the King of Kings and Lord of Lords. All right? It says, and this I say, that the covenant that was confirmed before God in Christ, the law, which was 430 years after, cannot disannul that it should not make the promise of none effect. What was the promise, man? The kingdom of heaven. The kingdom of heaven, rulership over the other nations, and the land of Israel. Those things were promised unto Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, man, before Moses, before any covenant was made about keeping the law. So that covenant and that promise is still in effect. Now, if Israel were unable to keep the law to achieve that promise, that means the Lord had to do something so that his promise, his word, could be fulfilled. And that thing he did was he sent his only begotten son, that whosoever shall believe in him shall have everlasting life, man. And as it is written, through Yahushua, all Israel ultimately shall be saved, meaning they're going to receive the promises. But it's going to begin with the elect of Israel, because 2/3 of Israel, they're going to face judgment, man. The curse of the law is going to completely destroy them in these last days, in the judgment days. But there's an elect that their sins are going to be forgiven and they're going to be passed over, and on top of that, they're going to be changed so that they never commit sin again. Therefore, they're going to achieve the kingdom of heaven, which was the part of the covenant, man. It's very simple, man. You can't fit a heathen in there. It don't apply to them, because they never was part of the kingdom of heaven. They never was part of the kingdom of heaven. The kingdom was never for them. Their role in the kingdom of heaven is to be underneath. And even Daniel tells you that all kingdoms and dominions shall come under. Alright? It says, for if the inheritance be of the law, it is no more promise. Okay? But God gave it to Abraham by promise. He told Abraham, look, your seed, I ain't going to forsake your seed. So how is the Lord going to turn around and have it where just because Israel couldn't be the Lord's going to destroy them all? Then that would break his promise. Wherefore then serveth the law, it was added because of transgressions, till the seed should come to whom the promise was made. And it was ordained by angels in the hand of a mediator. Now a mediator is not a mediator of one, but God is one. Is the law then against the promises of God? God forbid. For if there had been a law given which would have given life, verily righteousness should have been by the law. But the scripture have concluded all under sin, that the promise by faith of Yahushua and Mashiach might be given to them that believe. Which who's the them? The promises is to Israel, the seed of Abraham. You can't bring no other nation